Hello and welcome to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950. I am Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
Before we dive into who our guest is today, Joe's going to remind us of our show's purpose.
Our show's purpose is to connect people of service through stories of service.
Beautiful.
And connect to Rotary.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you.
Or any group that serves.
Yep.
Our guest today is Sharon Bloodworth. Round of applause.
Oh man, this one was fun.
Well, first of all, she's the incoming governor for District 5950 for the year 2024 and 2025. Bonus, she's got an amazing accent.
Yep.
Bonus. She loves to collect shoes of very famous people.
Long live the queen.
Wow, it was a great interview, and what I don't even know what to say about it. It was just like it just flowed.
Well, we should all feel very inspired of what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Not only from a leadership standpoint, but also she seems very passionate about the directives that she'll be championing. If there was anything I'm excited. Like I'm excited for her. Yeah. Like it was a long time coming. She's been waiting
for this for 12 years, she said.
To tie it in with the shoes, right? Like she drew upon the shoes, right, of Margaret Thatcher, and literally was just
way to give it away. Sorry. Don't tell Kelly any secrets.
I know. But she took that as an opportunity to go, well, wait a second. If these people, these women are just like, they're here in these outstanding high profile positions.
They figured it out.
Why can't I do it? Yeah. There's no glass ceiling. There's no, like, I don't have this as like,
well, they'll hear more about it in the interview.
Yes.
Very inspiring.
Yes. So.
Well, you're going to have to listen. We'll be back after the break.
I'm Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and
Russell Hampton Company. I want to thank them for sending us some swag. They're the #1 printer for Rotary in the country, so they can help you out with any of your Rotary printing needs or your business needs.
Thanks, Chad.
Yep.
Just going to do a quick introduction of our hosts. I'm Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
And we want to welcome our guest today in studio, Sharon Bloodworth.
Thank you.
Welcome. We're happy to have you. For those of you who are listening today, you're going to really want to listen in. So Sharon is our incoming governor for District 5950 for this upcoming year, 2024 and 2025. We're very excited to learn a little bit more about that and how your process has been from start to finish. But let's get to know you.
Perfect.
That's kind of how we like to start everything. So
I've heard it was the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah. We're going to really try to trip you up here.
Careful what you wish for.
So Sharon, let's start with, everybody can clearly hear your accent. So why don't you share with the listeners, where are you from?
Oh, brilliant. Well, I was born in the UK, but my dad worked in oil. So I grew up in the Congo, Indonesia, Texas. That's a whole country unto itself. Yes. France, Italy. We moved pretty much every 3 years or so. Wow. So I've spent most of my time actually out of the UK. But I talk to my mother every day, which I think why the accent sticks.
I was just going to ask.
But they think I sound very American. So
yes. Oh my gosh. Very exciting.
Mm-hmm. So I think I read, is your 20th year in Rotary. Is that correct?
20th year in Rotary, 30th year in the US.
Wow.
When did you settle in the Twin Cities?
That was about 22 years ago.
Wow.
So came here with an ex-husband, typical thing. Usually an ex kind of brings you to Minnesota. I was really excited because the only thing I'd seen, it was 90210 with the two kids that were from Minnesota. And I thought, that sounds great. And so, yeah. But however, it's so wonderful that it's always really hard to leave. It's a great place to raise children and, really brilliant. So it's a best kept secret.
Yeah. What made you join Rotary 20 years ago?
So my old boss was a Rotarian, and I was looking for something charitable to do, but during the day, because I had a young daughter at that point, the club actually met in my building, so I literally just had to fall out of the elevator to go up to it.
Very nice. Yeah.
But I landed in, club number 9, which is the 9th ever formed out of 40,000 clubs around the world. So I couldn't have been more lucky in kind of hitting that club. And I thought I was really lucky when they let me in originally. I was like, oh, I can't believe that I'm in here. But they've just, it's been unbelievable.
So in regards to the amount of years, you've really had a nice opportunity to see the evolution of Rotary as well. What has been some of the things that you have learned in the evolution of Rotary?
Oh, well, I remember one of my first meetings. Women were let into Rotary in the 1980s. And I think one of my first meetings was they were pointing out kind of the gentlemen that voted against ladies.
Welcome.
Yeah. Although, you know what? I love to belong to organizations where that it's hard to get in and that you're not particularly welcome because it's much more fun.
Yeah.
And I was the first woman in my CEO group as well. So
I like that attitude.
Oh, love it. And so they were again, Rotary has changed from a very kind of traditional more kind of male based, very, you have to be kind of the peak of your career, and then over the last 20 years it's really become an environment where all are welcome and encouraged, and it's really been through an amazing evolution. And so we still have that fine history of huge mentorship and leadership and community building, but it's been really fun, and it's different around the world. So we have 1.4 million Rotarians around the world, and every country and culture has a different flavor. So, for example, in my hometown in the UK, it's still a men's only club. I went to visit them. I didn't realize that. I went to visit them, and they might not let women in for another 100 years after my visit. But I had a great time, and they were so welcoming, and it was a real giggle.
That's good. That's really good. Surprising that after having you come visit, that they didn't maybe have that mindset shift.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, but I look forward to seeing them again as district governor and to go and wave the flag again. But they're a brilliant group. And again, every culture and group is different. And that's why there's always a home for everyone in Rotary somewhere.
That's right. As soon as I start getting the invites to the mom wine book nights.
Okay. I haven't even gotten an invite yet, so relax.
There was a group called the Brutarians, and it was Rotarians from all around the district that would get together just to go to the different breweries.
That's a good idea.
Not quite my flavor. If it's a winery, I would definitely be that's my flavor. But so I am thoroughly impressed with your bio. I've taken a look at that, and I see, obviously it's an impressive background. You've got a large private investment firm, both in Minnesota and Florida, and it's owned by all women, right?
Just by me.
By just you, okay? Yeah. And so there's a huge leadership component that goes in with that. And so what are some of the commonalities that you see between what you do with your investment firm and then what that means in respect to Rotary as well?
So when I came to Minnesota 22 years ago, I kind of started as a director of operations in an investment firm, and since then, again, bought out the owner 6 years ago, and it's made us the largest women-owned private investment firm in Minnesota and Florida, which I'm insanely proud of. But I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't actually for Rotary.
Do share more.
So in the sense that my Rotary Club opened up the community to me. So I got to know kind of who people were and got to know people very quickly. Being president of my club, it meant you were up in front of 150 people every Friday running the program. So I soon learned public speaking skills. And then I just had great mentorship and leadership. I always think that if you have a better skier in front of you, you automatically raise your game. And so, that was really brilliant. And I just thought, just the luckiest thing. And there was a gentleman that I went out to lunch with probably 6 or 7 years ago. It's pre-COVID. And he said that he'd never seen a transplant into Minnesota be so ingrained in Minnesota society and events. And he's like, how is that? He said, because Minnesotans are really nice, but because you've all gone to junior high together, you don't necessarily need more friends.
So tribal.
Well, it's certainly not the first time that has come up on our podcast too, and it probably won't be the last, but yes.
And so, I said it was actually Rotary. You know, when I look at all the organizations that I belong to and all the different boards, if I look at my closest friends, they're actually Rotarians, so it's a tremendous place to expand your network and your welcome.
Yeah. Well, and I think even just at the local level, like I think about like being incorporated into Edina. I mean, especially for you, Kelly, you came over from east suburbs and
the other side of the country
through Rotary,
as I like to call it.
It's pretty amazing when you're connected with education through the city government, through the different major businesses and things like that, and very quickly you're like, you feel very part of the community. You start serving in the community, and you know I definitely attribute that to as well to getting to know. Like, so it was kind of nice to hear like I'm a transplant, but was able to get the strong roots. It just shows you that. When you get involved in organizations that have roots in the community, of how quickly you can build those relationships.
Oh, it really does. Yeah. And I was very nervous. And it was funny that I remember the night before I was made president, and this was 2012. And I thought, what have I done? What have I done? I really don't like public speaking. What have I said yes to? And so my installation meeting, I came in dressed as the Queen. I had blow up corgis, and I essentially said it. And it was most of the older male partners of the big law firms downtown. And I essentially said, for a year, we're having British rule. I brought wigs for them all to wear. So they were now made into like British barristers. And I think secretly they really wanted to wear them. And so we, they laughed, and it was the most tremendous meeting. And in fact, after I spoke, they all stood up with a standing ovation. And I thought, they really love me. This is going to go well. I didn't realize it was tradition that you were supposed to do that.
Oh my gosh.
But I laughed, and then I never looked back. And then all of a sudden, just the nervousness disappears. And then it was just like, it was the most marvelous year of my life. I remember being on a plane going somewhere thinking if the plane goes down now, I am going out on top. And so I thought the only thing I could beat after being president was district governor. So it's been a long, it's been a long wait. It's been 12 years that I've wanted this job. So
that is so cool.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting in 12 months or a little bit more than that. And we'll have you back on the show and go, so was that your peak experience?
Or are you like looking at that other carrot in front of you, like the actual carrot, right?
No, I absolutely can't wait. I have been waiting. And my view is that, as I said before, like I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for my Rotary Club and my Rotary friends. So I saw this district governor role as a real give back tour. So 2019, I went to kind of study in Stanford, innovation and change management and organizations and what values are to, again, be able to really bring that back to our district and help them thrive. So,
well, and if you don't mind, like a lot of this show is geared around membership, exposing Rotary to new people. And one of the ways that Rotary has value to people is through business. Like it kind of started as a networking group and all of that. Right. And it's really fun to hear that you acknowledge the fact that Rotary was a key component in that,
key.
But it's always funny. Like it's not directly, it's this kind of remainder thing. Like it's if this, then that. It's not then that, then this. For all of those of you listening, I'm sure that you're like, what the heck is Joe talking about? Because I was using my hands. But anyway, like it's this like serving first component and like showing people who you are. And it's an amazing opportunity to show people who you are as a person. And then when people see that, they trust you, they like you, and then people use people that they know, like, and trust. And so, for those that are listening and going, I really want to build my business, is Rotary an organization to get part of? What recommendations would you have for somebody that is going in with that thought process? That was a really long way to ask a very simple question.
Yes, it was.
So we know that Rotarians that join, about half of them are joining for service and half of them are really joining for networking. So we know that. But however, the largest attrition is usually in the ones that are on the networking side because they really hope to have done business much faster. And Rotary is very different. It's not the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, you're really coming together to do really amazing things in your community and build very authentic friendships. But when you do business together, it's much more, it's much deeper, and kind of the resources you have in the club, it's very, very different. But as you know, I mean, it started with a group of gentlemen that wanted to do networking, and then the service came from that. It wasn't the initial thing. But however, kind of in Rotary, we've had a long-standing tradition of not talking about business in Rotary.
Yeah.
And part of that, it's not to discourage it, but it's really to encourage the much deeper friendships and relationships first. And then it makes all the difference again. So,
well, in my experience with it too has been, so when you join like a like a networking group, is you get like skin layer deep relationships, and it's really hard to get to like the second and third layer of relationships in people's lives that are really meaningful. Whereas Rotary, typically your first interaction is with a little deeper interaction. So it takes a little bit longer, but you're kind of getting to the same location in about the same amount of time, because maybe you get a referral to somebody that they just met or whatever. But typically, if you're getting a referral from a Rotarian, or if you're connecting with a Rotarian, they're like, hey, I want to introduce you to my top person that I really care about. And you're like, whoa, okay, cool. So my point is that it seems, in my opinion, because I've done both, that the outcome at the end is the same. It's just kind of the way that you get there is different.
Good way to...
Right. And I also think that, and I think Rotary operates a little differently in the business arena as well, is that you're really encouraged to connect with significant people in the community, and you have them come into your club. So it's a much faster way to make a more significant difference. And I always say part of the value, so for example, nonprofits, is having multiple nonprofit members in our group or in the district, because they can all get together. And at the end of the day, again, there is power in numbers and understanding each other. You can help each other get jobs. You can help each other improve. So it's so much more than just a referral to direct business. It's real self-development and growth, and that'll make you a much better business person ultimately than just exchanging business cards. So, yeah.
What are you looking forward to most as you become governor?
Are we going to see the Queen again?
Technically, it would be Empress now. Yeah, we have a whole Commonwealth now. Gosh, what am
I'm like, I don't know my British.
I know.
Sure.
I know. No, I think so as district governor, you are required or requested to go around and visit every club in your area. For me, there are many areas in Minnesota that I haven't traveled to or seen. And so usually if you have a weekend or a week trip, well, I'll go to Europe instead of kind of go north. And so I can probably count on my hands the amount of times I've gone north, because there's so much in the Twin Cities to see and do. And so I think that's going to be really exciting. And for me, that's exotic. So for example, for all my European friends and kind of my Asian friends, is that when I say, oh, I'm in Minnesota, they're like, oh, yeah, okay. And it doesn't really register. But if I say I'm by the Mississippi, they're like, oh, I mean, that is like being by the Nile and
oh my gosh.
or the Amazon. And so I'm excited to kind of visit.
I'm totally going to use that. I'm by the Mississippi.
Yeah.
Truly.
Wow.
We were taught how to spell it in school. I mean, it's an exotic thing. I'm married to an Iowan, and that's fields of corn, and it's so exotic for me. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't think Iowans have ever been referred to as exotic ever.
Right.
Fabulous, I can tell you.
I went to school in Iowa.
Oh.
We'll call them fabulous. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to a lot of things. Thanks for your question. And and not only visiting the clubs, but helping make significant change. Rotary has 1.4 million people around the world, but it's rising in the East. So India has exploded in terms of membership, but in the West, we're top in terms of fundraising, but our membership is declining.
Yeah.
And again, because the world is changing and people don't join things as much, and it's no different to churches and other organizations.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that which is why we're here,
Yeah.
to kind of expand Rotary. And so that's one of the things that I'm committed on working on. And I think I have a magic bullet, because I have been studying over the last couple of years, because again, really wanted to maximize this year. So I'm excited to work with our president-elects in helping create some change around that.
Very cool.
That'll be cool. Can we go into that deeper, or is that for another time? We'll have to have you back on.
I think we got to wait till July.
That's okay.
I'm
How's that for a teaser?
I know.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
What?
I'm going to just shift it, because I want our listeners to have a little bit more, like a further glimpse into who is Sharon outside of Rotary.
Yes.
And I off air, I was like, I am so fascinated with your bio.
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
fascinated with some of like the things that you have that are of interest. And one of them is you collect shoes of very famous women.
That's right.
Including Margaret Thatcher, and another one of my favorites, Audrey Hepburn.
Oh,
I love her. We have a huge picture of Audrey Hepburn that was given to me.
You're on the list too.
Oh, I didn't know that, Sharon.
husband number one.
Yeah.
You give her a pair of Crocs.
So where did that passion come from? I want to know where the passion came from.
It was accidental.
Okay.
Margaret Thatcher had passed away, and her family were auctioning her goods at Christie's in London. And I really wanted one of her work outfits, because she was a great role model for me. Because again, when I was growing up in the UK, the Queen was Queen, and Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister. So I thought there was nothing I could do in the world other than be Pope. I could do everything in the world rather other than be Pope at that point, having those two ladies. Yeah. So I never saw glass ceilings. I mean, that's why, again, I'm so happy to play in any organization where I don't really belong, because if you don't see the barrier, you don't do it. So anyhow, with Margaret Thatcher, so I'd wanted one of her outfits, but there was some guy in South Korea that was bidding them up, and being in the financial world, I do try and be prudent in what I buy. And so it was just beyond what I was going to pay for, but I managed to get 3 pairs of her shoes. And I thought, oh, this is nice. And then a couple of months later, Oprah on eBay was doing a decluttering and raising money for charity. And so I got Oprah's shoes. And I thought, oh, no, this is the start of a collection. And then it went from there. And so then I've got Audrey Hepburn's, I've got Dame Margot Fontaine's little ballet shoes, I've got Misty Copeland's ballet shoes, Martina Navratilova's tennis shoes, Annika Sorenstam's golf shoes with mud on them. They have to be used. So these women had to have stood in them. Meryl Streep, Cher, Janet Jackson. Some ladies say no. So Barbara Walters said no. Dolly Parton said no. Ellen DeGeneres
Dolly.
said no.
I know, that surprises me.
But however, and the Queen said no. I did ask for the Queen's. However, I did get a beautiful letter from Buckingham Palace explaining why I couldn't have them.
Wait a second. So in your, you ask directly?
Oh, it's like fishing. You have to be very patient, very patient. But, no, I go straight to them.
Okay, so it wasn't as if it was like an auction, it started off with
Sotheby's and Christie's. If they have an A-class lady, I will know that they're up for sale. But a lot of the time I go direct and just and ask them, because what I found was it's all trailblazing ladies. But if you stand in their shoes in their hardest moment in their industries, they're incredible. They've paved the way for all of us. And the only ones that fit me are Margaret Thatcher's. Most of them are too small. Oprah's is the largest shoe I've got. And so occasionally I'll put on Margaret Thatcher's shoes, one of the 3, where again, I think, what would Margaret Thatcher do? She wouldn't be crying right now. She would be, no, she wouldn't, hold it together.
Sharon, You seem like such a bubbly, joyous person. I can't imagine you crying. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah. So so I highly recommend collections to people because it's just fun. It's fun in the chase and fun to get them. So
I'm so glad that I asked that question. It was a great response. And I am impressed with the fact that you go directly to the source too.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
I love the thought process of like, what would they do? And like, you're literally standing in their shoes.
You are standing in their shoes.
That's actually.
And some
really
of these women have been through like tremendous adversity, and so you think it's so occasionally if I have to speak to really large groups that I'm a little bit nervous about, Margaret Thatcher's shoes work.
I love it.
And I have a handbag too. So
do you display them at home?
No, they're all in storage. They've been out for a magazine once, and I have another magazine that wants to photograph them. But ultimately, the goal was to give them to the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. So, but the neatest thing, they had a show of divas that I went around, and they didn't have their shoes, but I had 3 or 4 of them, and I was like, oh, I should really be telling them now they can borrow things.
Yeah.
So, but,
that's so cool.
Funny.
So yes,
That's great.
But the hunt is always on.
Yeah, no kidding. That's really fascinating. What a great passion project.
I also saw, and you mentioned a tennis player.
Yes.
You work with the top 100 tennis players for financial advice?
For financial behaviors, yes.
Behavior, sorry.
Yeah.
How did you get into that arena? I
Yeah.
guess,
Yeah.
So I have a so for example, the Super Bowl, most people get really excited and kind of looking at that and kind of the sport of it. But I always it stresses me somewhat when I see them because again, that the financial aspect of the business is very, very different. And as young people, we're not taught to be really prudent. And you always compare yourself to others with big houses and flashy cars and things like that. And so there's a very high statistic in the NFL of players that are bankrupt, shortly after the money stops. And for me, it's just so frustrating. I think a little bit they're taken advantage of and not given enough education and help. Well, I got this opportunity to help the top 150 women in global tennis. And most of them actually in the top 150 are not US. They're quite often Eastern European. To spend time with them each year at their tournaments in really talking through kind of financial behaviors and helping them think through that, because the wealthier you get, the larger entourage you get. Everybody expects to be paid for, and it's very stressful. And these young women are having to make significantly large kind of investment and kind of investment management decisions alone. And so I love doing that. I do it for pro bono. I've done it for the last kind of 3 or 4 years. And I haven't watched tennis much since the 1980s, kind of this Pete Sampras era. So I don't really know who they are, but the advantage is that then it's just another person in front of you. But it's just very, very satisfying work. And again, it was something that popped up through a client. But it's one of my favorite things to do. And it was really a bright spot during COVID. It's something to do outside of kind of my ordinary day. But I have a huge passion in helping people really, really be financially prudent for their entire lives. And you have and the same with CEOs, they have kind of a pretty narrow window, like tennis players and others of very high earnings. And so you have to be really smart during that time. So.
Well, I love that give back, right? And you said it's pro bono, so it's from the goodness of your heart, right? There's something else just in tandem with that. It sounds like this year you had completed the largest ever fundraiser for our Rotary District 5950. You raised $3 million on top of the usual annual $1 million as the district foundation chair. Okay, let's unpack that.
Well,
How?
well, you can't tell on the radio, but I'm fairly short. So I'm your classic overachiever that's had to kind of, jump up and down to be seen. I come from a kind of I've got 3 siblings and So what happened was that, and I am not a fundraiser. In fact, it's funny that I'm in the work I'm in because I hate to ask for money. I hate to ask people for things or to do things. And in fact, another organization in town had asked me to work on their capital campaign. I was like, oh no, you don't want me. I don't like to ask people for things. And but I went down to Texas on a zone training, which was kind of, where they put kind of lots of Rotary districts together. And learned in Texas, there was this thing called the $1 Million Journey, where it was a goal to raise $1 million. And those Texans, which I've lived in Houston, Texas, and I love Texans with a passion. And they were very confident about what they had done. And I was like, you know what? Minnesota can do better because number one, our district is the 11th in the world in terms of fundraising. Out of 520 districts. And so I brought it back to our district, and our wonderful district governor, Mariana Koff, who went before me. I said, do you mind if I start this here? And she said, yep, no, go ahead. And so then we just had a grand old time and raised $3 million, and it was just wonderful. And it's rare to do that again so quickly. But I really feel that we just hit the tip of the iceberg. So we'll actually be running it again coming up this year. In fact, it's already started. People don't know it yet. You heard it here first.
Love it. I can see.
I thought
Joe's
you just
wheels
sold
turning.
some of your shoes. This will take care of it.
For sale.
Not for sale, she says. No, thank you.
Yeah. But the moral of the story is that actually anyone could do it. Because if I could do it, and I was not a trained fundraiser, and I'm a really reticent person asking for business, and it was really beautiful. Like, everyone just opened up their checkbooks, and it was just the most amazing thing ever. And so I'm hoping to do the same thing with membership again. I'm a reticent referrer for that, but I know that the biggest job I've got to do next year is to really raise our membership. And so I plan to take the same enthusiasm and gusto.
I feel like you're being super humble right now. And also, they probably were just puddles listening to your accent.
That helps. I've had a lot of offers to, will you please record this from my voicemail? And one of my pipe dreams is to be like a little voiceover person. And so, yes.
You like Alexa?
Yes, that'd be amazing.
Oh, yeah, that would be.
So, but seriously, like, what do you attribute, like, if you could point to one thing as what was the successful measure that really helped you raise money or to get people to give on top of what they already have? Because, I mean, that's a significant difference in giving. It's not just, you had some pizzazz. It was obviously something to that. You're like, I'm not unveiling my secrets.
Yeah.
No, I'm very happy to. It was an incredible group of what we called ambassadors around me. So this was a group effort that we did together. At the end of the day, the charity, the Rotary Foundation, is a really quality charity. I mean, it's 4-star Navigator. Very rare that you achieve that as a charity. So would it be bad to say it was an easy sell?
Yeah. Yeah, it would. Like, I sell for a living. I'm going.
Yeah.
There's something there.
Yeah.
I mean,
join the team and I'll tell you our secrets.
All right.
Yeah.
Deal.
Okay.
That's how you did it.
Right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not giving it away. You come join the efforts. And
no, in fact, I am giving it away because I'm actually trying to promote the how we did it to as many districts and clubs as physically possible.
Yeah.
So we actually replicate this around the world. The central leadership in Rotary International has asked specifically that we actually run these programs across the world. So I'm actively involved in helping promote and teach everyone the secrets.
Okay. Well, there'll be a happy hour and cocktails at some point. We're going to share this.
Yeah.
I can be bought with shoes. Shoes, not drinks.
Okay, shoes.
Yeah.
What, with raising that money, obviously it goes to projects. Have you participated? What's been the favorite service project that you've participated in that had the most impact on you?
Oh.
This is called dead air.
I know.
I didn't mean to
okay.
stop you.
It's called suspense.
Yeah.
Suspense. Yeah.
I can see Brett over there just giggling. He's like, or we could just.
Yes. Yours is, where do I even start? I will tell you one little story before I actually answer kind of your thing directly. So, so last week, 2 weeks ago, I was in Orlando, where Rotary International brings all the district governors from around the world, the prospective ones, and then trains us. And so I was having a really nice lunch with a gentleman from Bangladesh and his wife was very friendly, and we were just sitting there having lunch, and he leaned over and he kind of said, there was a project that Rotary did in my country many years ago, and he said it was to build a fish farm. It was a project towards that, and I said, "Oh, that's amazing! That's fascinating." And he said this with tears in his eyes. We cried at lunch, and he said, "Well, do you know that Bangladesh is the 4th largest fish farmer in the world now?" And you just thought, sort of it took one club starting a project to change the world for a country. Who wouldn't love to do that?
Yeah.
And it takes one Rotarian to make that change. There were a couple of Rotarians that walked over and helped create the United Nations. And so, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about joining Rotary, is that you can change the world, you can change environments. A couple of weeks ago at my club number 9, we had these people come and say they had some photographs from our club that they wanted to deliver from the early 1900s, and we said, "Oh, wonderful, come." And so the lady spoke to us, and she said, "Well, what you don't realize is that," she said, "that my grandfather was a member of this club, and then he fell ill with mental illness, and his wife, and he had quite a few children, and so his wife was going to be pretty destitute, and the club said, 'No, we're going to look after you.' And she said, 'Well, how are you going to do that?' And they went and lobbied apparently the Minnesota government to create kind of the first mental health coverage in the state. And you think, and that came from my Rotary Club, and you just think, isn't that the most tremendous thing in the entire world? So it's just brilliant. And the difference with Rotary is that because each club has their own foundation, and then you have the grander kind of Rotary Foundation, there are resources and assets and things to do it. You just have to make friends with a club or a country and go on vacation. So for the Bahamas, for example, I went to the Bahamas and I met with a club and they danced there. And unlike ours, we're much more formal. But after that, they said, "Oh, let's get up and dance." And I said, "I'll be back." And then now I found a project that we've almost solidified, where a cruise ship will actually deliver 10,000 pounds of goods for us that we deliver for free. And so I said to the Bahamas, because that's one of their ports, "Can we work with you to do it?" And again, that was just from a visit there. Wow. So, Rotary is it's just magic. In fact, that's the new theme for next year, the magic of Rotary, because it's just brilliant. And it is, as in life, it is what you make it. Like if you're somebody who wants to go and achieve and do it, it's there for you. Wide open book.
This is what we call dead air, because we're like, holy cow, you're so right.
Brett will edit that one too.
your like examples are beautiful in just what Rotary can do.
Oh, can I tell you one more?
And large.
Yes,
sure.
Oh,
of course.
please.
So sorry, I just remembered one of my it was one of my favorite moments of the it's called International Assembly, where they were doing training. And most people are used to in Rotary is that so half of our giving is in local community efforts, so parks and benches and projects, and half of it is international giving. And so I would say 100% of giving is generally in international, is us to some area that's less developed. But during COVID, I don't know whether you know this or not, but during COVID, there was a district in India that actually did a project from there to us, to Maple Grove. To Raj, maybe it was Raj, that did, where again, all the PPE and the masks and everything were developed for us here. And that was just, after years of our club doing projects with India, that was the most beautiful thing that in our hour, when we had an hour of need, that they did it in reverse.
Yeah.
And so I did not go back to shoes.
Oh, no.
Not be crying.
It's okay. This is the beauty of this podcast, is when you kind of get into those raw emotions. and it helps the listeners understand why Rotary is the best vehicle.
It was beautiful. And so in this training room we had, I explained this. There was a gentleman from the Indian district opposite me on the opposite side of the room, and I'd explained to the whole group that projects aren't just one way, and what we'd experienced in ours, it's called reverse grants. And I got to thank him from across the room for what he did for us, and it was the most beautiful moment ever.
Yeah.
But it's just so it's just terrific. And so, for example, when our bridge fell down in Minnesota, is that again, you had so many clubs from abroad kind of saying, "How can we help you? What can we do for you?" When the George Floyd incident happened, is that there were so many clubs that reached out from abroad. It's the most beautiful thing in the world, because we have so many communities here that it's fantastic. So I love Rotary.
2 quick observations. One is, I do think that last story was really great, because we sometimes forget that, we get stuck in this, like we're helping everybody else. And then to have those moments where we're getting help and we're receiving, I think that's so important. And then number 2, just an observation about you, is something about you that is so unique is you've removed almost every single boundary in front of you. Like we as people, we put things in front of us. Like I think the thing that
I can raise my hand to that
that,
one,
I'm literally
sure.
like listening to you and going, wow, she does such a nice job. And like, you struggle with things like everybody else, but you find a way to go, no, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm doing. And I think about how often, and I'm sure that our listeners will appreciate this too, is like you put that self-governor on of like, oh, I can't do that. Or, oh, it's not supposed to, I'm not supposed to be here. Yeah. And you're just like, whatever.
I know.
But it's super
empowering,
but it's super palatable in like your results. Because that's what I always look at. I'm like, okay, what are the results? What are the results? And you look at $3 million raised. You look at that you disrupted an all-male or club, like all of these type things. And I'm like, anybody can do that. Like, and we just don't, because of the reasons I just said. And
limiting
so thank you so much for modeling that, because like I'm even taken away and I'm going, yeah, oh crap. Okay.
No,
you don't play small.
Yeah.
Right.
No, you have to live large. You know, the barriers are only in your mind.
And I'm trying to figure out what to collect.
It brings you great joy. Truly great joy.
Yeah.
Kelly's over there like, no, please no.
But sometimes you have to find other ways. So, for example, there was a big earthquake in Indonesia where a lot of people were displaced and schools were reduced to rubble, and the government rebuilt the schools but wouldn't rebuild the kindergartens. And so my dad, who lived there, came to me, had a lady over there and said, well, can Rotary help? And Rotary doesn't actually build buildings. They won't do bricks and mortar. And the rationale is, well, then who owns it? And so there's difficulties around that. And so, which you can understand, they will fill it with medical equipment and people, but they just can't build buildings. And so I said, oh, that's not going to be possible. And I took it back, and I thought, well, this was 2007, I think it was, and I was like, well, then I'll do it. And so I thought, and the cost wasn't that expensive. So, like, would I build a fence or get new floors or put on siding on my house, or I could build a kindergarten? And I thought, oh no, I'll go and do that. So I actually took on debt to do it, which is why people think you're nuts. But I was like, yeah, but I would have taken on debt to at that point to build a fence. But what Rotary could do is that the 50 or 100 kindergartens that were around it, they could then put in supplies and put in playgrounds and things. And it was the most beautiful thing. And I didn't go over for the opening because, again, it was really expensive to do that. But I told my dad to tell them that it was with love from America. Because again, if it wasn't for America, I would never have the start I would have. Yeah. Sometimes it's like increasing anti-American sentiment abroad. Whereas if you can tell children, it was actually, no, this is from America and it was with love. Yeah. It's been beautiful. So like 50 kids go through there every year. And I went to see it for the first time in 2018 and I cried and cried.
Yeah.
So it was the most beautiful moment in my
I'm
life.
getting
So
chills.
yeah.
I'm getting chills thinking
But
about it.
That's what Thatcher would do too. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, she never cried. You never saw her cry except for the very end when she left office, and even that was behind in a window behind a curtain. So.
Mm.
But yeah, so you can see there that again there was a roadblock, but you can do your own thing. But still, my club took a high interest in Indonesia as well, so we're still able to do more for all of the others as well, just in how we were able to do it. So yeah.
Well,
you're going to be a return guest. I'm just going to
Aw.
tell you.
this has been so wonderful,
Yes.
Sharon. I can't believe that we're actually over our time right now. It's
Oh,
pretty.
sorry.
Oh,
So
no.
it'd be so nice to have you back on, and we're cheering for you.
And
for
we've got
district
that
governor.
30 seconds to kill out of here.
Yeah, no, it's all good. But again, we want to thank you.
Yeah, thank
It's
you
been
so
an
much.
honor, and loved just hearing everything about, the personal and the professional and how it all kind of combines with Rotary. So.
And the power of Rotary, the magic of
The magic.
Rotary.
It truly
Rotary.
is. Yes. I mean, I highly recommend it to everyone in my life. I said, if you're looking for friends, looking for meaning, looking for for things to do, there's a home for you in Rotary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a great way to
That's
cap
perfect.
everything
Looking
off.
forward
So
to July.
thanks
Thank
everyone
you.
for listening. I'm Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson. We'll be back.
Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950. I'm Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
What a great interview
Ooh.
with Sharon. We went through a lot. We unpacked a lot.
And if you're not jacked, I
I
just
know.
don't know what to
I
tell
know.
you.
What was your key takeaway, Joe?
She and I mentioned it in the interview, is just this ability to remove obstacles.
Mhm.
That's an incredibly powerful gift because it just keeps you moving forward. How about you?
Kelly?
Oh gosh. Okay, my turn. I would say that there was no barrier too big for her, and it's something to just kind of look for.
Yeah.
It's I was very much inspired by just don't let the barriers stop you.
Yeah. And
How about you?
I think she represents where Rotary is going too. I know
Yes.
we talk about a lot of things, but overarching, that was the big thing.
Yeah.
As I was thinking about it, was this is where Rotary is going. This is why I think we like to be a part of Rotary too, is for somebody that sees it in a different way. And my other biggest takeaways, I'm looking forward to, July to hear a little bit more on some of the details.
I know. We'll have her back.
Yeah, we should definitely have her back. So we just want to, anything else, guys, you want to add?
Yeah, I think the importance too, the last little takeaway was just how rooted Rotary was for her being a transplant.
Yeah.
In my business, and we hear it a lot from people. It's hard to get to know your community.
Yes.
Okay, if you move here, join Rotary. It sounds like it connects you to your community. I can attest to that. I think you can attest to that. She can attest to that.
Yeah. Wow. So if you hadn't had a chance to listen to all of that interview, go back and hit replay. So we want to take the moment to thank our listeners. And I'm Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
It's time to stop searching
And start serving.
We'll see you next week.